Hi everybody, my name's Vicky Hannah. I'm going to be your trainer for the CHCCSL001. It's a brand new unit. I'm doing this for the diploma level students. So let me just, let me just open that up for us again. And let me share that unit for us. Wonderful. Just open up that screen so you can get a clear view. This is going to be just a brief recording. We have our live classes and we do record some of those, and we're going to be doing a full recording of the unit for you. So we may have some new learners that are with us at the moment, and we start new learners when we start a brand new unit. So our live classes are on Thursday nights for the Diploma of Community Services. We log in at 6 and get started, and we log out at 9 p.m. And during that time, we're going to cover the key learnings. You will have by then in your porthole the resources that go with this. What are those resources? So it'll be access to your assessment tasks. And as you open those up, you can have a look through, you can save your work if you wanted to attempt some of it. And then, of course, you can submit when you've completed, and you can submit to get it marked. And if there's any feedback or some gaps in that, your assessors will help you with that and guide you. And then from there, you can attempt again. So you get 3 attempts, and then usually if you need more than that, then a trainer will step in there for you to open up more units, and two, to just check if the feedback we're giving you is clear enough, or if we've made our information helpful for you to progress. But there's a lot of support outside of classes. You can do this at your own pace. You get 18 months to complete a diploma. And a diploma study, on top of everything else, if you can find 12 to 20 hours a week, including your classes and reading through your notes and your learner's guide, you'll find that you'll be able to get there. So this particular unit has 4 weeks and 4 units assessment tasks. So every unit will have either 1, 2, 3, or 4 tasks. This one has 4. So there's 4 assessments in this unit, and it runs for 4 weeks. And in week 4, we have our role play. We offer that in class. You don't have to do it in class, of course, but it gives you an opportunity to, one, do that and not have to look for clients to play. You'll have that from your peers, or you might just watch and learn what someone else is doing for a time where you can do it. If it's assessor-led, you need to have an assessor with you, but that does not have to happen that week in class. When you've got enough clients to do that with, because you need to simulate and follow the instructions, then you can say, look, I'm ready, and there are 4 more of us who are ready as well. And if it asks for 4 people, yourself and 3 clients, then that's what you're going to need to have to be able to book that. You can let your learner support officers know that you're ready. But let's just do an overview first. I wanted to welcome everybody who is new to HADA. We do have a couple of just some resource glitches here in the scheduling, and we'll make sure that we've got that sorted for you as soon as possible. And I'll also do a full pre-recording, which will be a resource that you can keep. And that will cover all of the slides, all of the information, and all of the assessments. But for tonight, week 1, I wanted to just give you an overview of what the next 4 weeks are going to be like, and do that in a brief recording to go out to everyone that's enrolled. And then also we're going to have a second recording, and that will be our learners who came to class and they went into a breakout room and they bring back the scenario that we did just for the sake of the breakout room, but using the skills for this particular unit, CHCCSL001. So here I have on our cover page our Maslow hierarchy of needs, which is really what the foundation is for non-clinical counselling, which of course is what this unit is about. We work initially on the physiological, which is your shelter, food, accommodation, warmth, all those absolute essential basic needs, and also human rights as well. To be safe is the next thing. We can't get someone to feel safe, to feel love and belonging, to have confidence and self-worth and esteem, or even to reach their goals if we have not met those basic needs first. So we start there and find out, are those needs being met? And then we prioritize those so that we can move to the next and we can move to the next. So that's what the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is. So your client may have a different need that they've put right there as their priority, but we know that if we don't have this foundation, when we're doing this work, it will fall over. It will be something that just doesn't have traction. And that's okay, because the client is the one that decides where they're up to and what their needs are. And our role is to support them wherever they're up to, whatever they present with, and to maybe prompt them with some other opportunities and options that they have tried in the past that maybe weren't successful, and timing might mean that now it would be. And with you as a worker with them, maybe it's exactly what they need, is to have someone walk beside them. So for week 1, I want to introduce you to the full unit, and then also to introduce you to some of your class and to view the class, do an activity where we unpack some of those micro skills, which of course is what counselling is about. So before we get started, I'd like to do our acknowledgement to country. In the spirit of reconciliation, Hayter Institute of Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of this nation and the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live and study. We express our gratitude for the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spiritual and cultural costs of that sharing, and hope that we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respect to all First Nation people and acknowledge elders, past, present and emerging. And I would like to extend that acknowledgement out to any of our Hayter learner community who identify as First Nation, who are connected in one way or another to the land and the country that they sit on. So I'm coming to you from Tarrabalang Bundaland, which is a Queensland First Nation area. Okay, so just a little overview of where we're up to. So the unit name is CHCCSL001, and the key learnings are establish and confirm the counselling relationship. This unit supports you to plan and implement case management plans, to build respectful professional relationships, to facilitate support options and linkages so you can refer out seamless referral pathways, appropriate and relevant referrals that you will work with your client together to determine. You will create a plan, you will set those goals, and then you'll review the plan and the outcomes and adjust them as your time goes by with your client. So it's like, how is that going? And if it's not, this is our review point. So we're always back in that collaborative where it's person-centered, which means the client drives their own plan. Our role is to guide, not advise, but we can suggest and we can put options and things that may have been a barrier for a client. We may be the one that can overcome that. We don't want to leave those options and opportunities outside of the conversation because the client may want that. They can reject it, but if we put it in front of them in a way where it's absolutely their decision, you're building that rapport, you're establishing connection, and they will trust you because you'll be consistent in how you support them. You'll have a model that you work to. For those who aren't working in the sector, we give you a simulated dashboard called First Access. And in our skills assessment, which we call fondly role plays, you'll have the full use of that First Access policies and procedures and templates to fill in to do your casework. So where do you get the knowledge for the learning? You will get it from your live classes, your pre-recording, your learner's guide, which is a resource, and you will get slides as well if we have those. If not, please use the slides that I give you in the recordings that I do to be able to guide you. And what we do is we take the information from your assessments and we unpack them and bring the sector to you so that it makes meaning around why are they asking me this question and how can I find the answer. About 75% of your answers are in your learner's guide. Some of it you're going to get from classes and shared knowledge, that collective wisdom, and then you'll also research and find out what's in your local area, what's in your state or territory. It must be evidence-based. So if it asks for something in written, why you've answered it that way, reference where you've answered it, and make sure that you reference that and say, I got it from this book, this author published on this date, and it is a practice widely used. So, or it might be, here is the website link to a government department where you found that, and then you will reference that. You'll give them the link to that. Your assessors may check your references as well when they're assessing, and that will happen from time to time. So make sure that you have that. Where did I get that information from? None of your assessment work is subjective or opinion-based unless we ask you your opinion. Otherwise, the answers are there in your learner's guide, in your classes and your classes recordings if you can't make it to class, or that pre-recorded one for the whole unit. Or some of the research. If you're a sector worker, you may have something that you can refer to and it'll make more sense for you. But even if we are a sector worker, this is most current in the studies and it'll validate what you do know. So you'll get confirmation you're on the right track, or it may raise something where you could do some improving performance as well. So regardless of where you're up to in your studies or how long you've been with HADA, everybody is starting this new unit at the same time. So the only thing that those who have been in studies for a longer time is that they're more familiar with the process, but the content, it's brand new for everybody. Okay, so let's begin. So that area there, the reflect on your own practice to improve service delivery, that's where we jump into that. Tell us your thoughts around if it's asked of you in an assessment question. Okay, so apologise if I have lose my voice somewhere along here. Change of weather. This is being recorded in the middle of winter. And of course, we've all been taken by surprise a little with cold snaps. So let me just move on so we can get through this. This is going to be part one. 2 recordings will come to you. The next one is going to be your class, just trying on for size, some case management, some intake and assessment, and discussing a hypothetical scenario. I give you a case And of course, I've de-identified the person who it's around, but it's a real case like the ones in your assessment. We just changed the names, that's all. So in week 1, an overview and the foundations of what case management is. We talk about the topics we're going to cover. What is case management? What's ethical practice? What's the cycle from intake right through to exit? And then what's a client assessment? There's an actual intake form. As another resource you'll be asked to fill in. And then what's the initial engagement skills? What are your micro skills in getting to know someone for the very first time and creating that relationship where there's trust, where they're willing and can accept help? And that will not happen in a 15-minute role play. But those micro skills, if you can demonstrate those, which is what we assess you on, over time, you definitely will get there if your client is willing to. So we need to be able to make sure that we put all of that professionalism into that space so they can trust that space. And even if they have been seeing someone for a long time, you may be the worker in the right place at the right time where they have that readiness in their decision making to seek help and accept that help. So we talk about that in part 2. We bounce that around and review that case. It's hypothetical, but it's to give you an idea of what are the skills involved in this unit. In week 2, we'll do more of the planning after we've done the intake and initial risk assessment. We'll talk about how do we set goals together? How do we do that collaboratively? We'll create some SMART action plans, so SMART goals. We'll do projects, we'll do case studies, and then we'll move on into our final week, week 4, we'll move on into the skills and applying those, or some will do those in classes, but we will definitely talk about them. Building trust is about being consistent, and where you say what you mean and you mean what you say. We don't overpromise and underdeliver to our clients. And we have to be really mindful of how we care for ourselves in that space. In your second recording, we go there. We have a look at the client's experience and their perspective. We have a look at worker to worker experience and their perspective. And then we look at the organisation's view about, are we working to our funding? Are we working to our service model? Are our staff, are we creating a culture where we have that oversight around human rights and duty of care? And even if something does appear to be outside of your role, you need to be working in a culture where you can feed that to your line manager and help them understand why you are working in that space or why that is exiting. And we do that often weekly with case conferencing, where we'll talk about clients and get shared input. We do that in class, and that's our collective wisdom. So even someone brand new to an organisation or brand new to study could just put a different perspective over it. You go, you know what, I miss that. I've been in the sector for a long time, and that's right. That's exactly what that is. That's that basic initial, not getting too deep too quickly. And so a new person can raise that. That's why case conferencing is so valuable. Or you might be drawing on years of experience where they have in their toolbox a whole range of strategies and approaches and connections in the community who could be part of that wraparound support for this client. And we don't want to miss that either. That strengthens our professional development and our continuous improvement, but it also keeps us accountable to others, and it makes sure that the organisation is sharing information. If for some reason a staff member is away, we make sure that we've got an idea on how that worker works and then what clients they're working with, so that if we're taking some relief or adding extra clients to our own caseload, we've got a handover or a warm handover, we call that. So we do that sensitively, though, not just to move the client on. So you can refer internally to other staff and externally to other service providers if your organisation doesn't offer those. We'll often go outside. So week 3, we look at how do we monitor and adjust our support. We keep checking those goals we had at the beginning. Are they the ones that we have now? Are you liking the work that I'm doing? Is there anything that you need me to do differently? We need to check, not just assume that we are doing everything that the client needs. Or if we control the conversation too much, they may not feel that there's room for them to share and speak. So a good balance in our client work in case management is 60% of the client doing the talking, and then 40% of us prompting and engaging, positively reinforcing, paraphrasing, just like, so this has been hard for you, and we acknowledge and validate where they're up to. We find things that they've done well, things in the past that we can bring forward to give hope. We use trauma-informed care and practices if we identify that person has got complex needs. And so we don't know, it's very individualized. And so in your toolkit, you'll be drawing from different strategies. It will all come through open-ended questions rather than yes, no answers, or here's a problem, here's a solution, see you later. It's caseworkers walking beside and supporting that person wherever they're up to. But it isn't about advice, but it definitely is about letting your client know that, you know, this isn't as good as it gets for you, that we see more for them. It's okay to encourage that and hope that they join you there. And if they're not there at the moment, try and have that lens over it where perhaps that client with all of their history is currently at their full potential, not, oh, if only you were doing this, then everything would be okay. We need to be fully present in the here and now and work with the client where they are up to in a professional manner with a healthy professional boundary for us to work to. That's where we establish trust, build rapport, because we're consistent and they can count on that until they feel safe enough. And you will be present. You will be there for them if you need to. But we'll explore the self-care as well while we're going. So week 3 is about reviewing their goals, updating any information if they've changed their phone number or where they're staying, or if they've got important dates coming up, other appointments like a court date or a GP's appointment or a referral attending. They may say, is that something that you could take me to? If it's in the scope of your role, you may be transporting a client. Often a position will advertise that you definitely need your working with children check. That's a given, no card, no start. That's every state and territory. Whether you think you're working with people over 18 or not, that's a requirement because it is a soft check on a fit and proper person in the sector. It may ask that you have your first aid or that you would be expected to get your first aid. It may require that you have a clean driving record with points available as well. So people will often ask for a police check. And if something's reportable, traffic offences aren't, but it's your responsibility. If you're hired and it's required that you have a driver's licence, if you've got a change in circumstances, you must update HR. That doesn't mean that you may not be able to continue to work, but it might mean that you're working in a different area or they've got to have another person shadow and go with you around that. But it just really look at what your position description says or the vacancy. Not everybody has a driver's license. And if the job requires that, then that would mean you're not eligible for that. If it says that's what you need, they're saying it because they're funded to do certain things for clients. One of those would be transport, which means that they need a worker who can do all of the things that they're funded to deliver. And then communication within our peers, our teams. making sure they're okay, sharing information internally in a professional manner, caring for each other with psychological safety, and then documenting support and progress in our client's individual support plan, and our file notes, which can be subpoenaed to be read in court. So it's about how do we document what we're doing with our clients without making it too narrative, and then nothing in a client's file that you would not want a client to read, because it's meant to be not opinion-based. So it would be the client stated or the client presented. They appeared to be agitated today. They were pacing the room and clenching their fists. That would be in my file notes because that's what I observed. And then what the client states is this is what the client stated. So our file notes are written in a way that if we weren't there, we could read it and we could get a picture in our mind about what might have happened, the circumstances around that. Psychache is about how someone presents with their mood, their mental health, without doing a diagnosis. So we put all of those things down because it's helpful to prompt us. It also is great to review back on, look, you know, the first couple of sessions you were really agitated, and now you just seem to be able to come in and sit and find that centered space really quickly. So you're doing great work. It's a point to give that positive reinforcement to our clients. So as we move through the goals and the duration that we're with them, we start planning for their exit. Like it seems like we've got that and you're handing over to another service, or they're accessing that more readily and that's what they want, or they've come to the end. We do reflective practice, like how did I go? What could I do differently? What did I do well? We're going to cover our supervision and debriefing. We'll do that with our class tonight. We'll unpack a bit of that, but we'll have peer review rather than with the supervisor. We'll just get some feedback of what they thought that was like, what was going on, and the ideas that they're prompted to come up with. We'll try and encourage some of that feedback and record that for you. When we finish a case file does not mean that we cannot reopen it, because we absolutely can. Some of our clients don't see us on a regular basis, but if they have been there previously, we need to reopen it and make sure we do another intake again. Okay, so the case is not where we step off from. The case is where are they up to now? It might give us some information, but the client is still the best person to tell us their story and what their needs are at the moment. And then feedback also on how we can have that continuous improvement and improve our own service. The model, we need to communicate with our peers and our supervisors, and we want that feedback from our clients as well. And you may not be a good fit for every client, and that's okay as well, because what you want is for the client to get the support that's a good fit for them. And that's really important, that they know that they can change workers if they want to. If there's anything that we're doing or we're missing or we're not quite understanding, then we need to be able to step forward and ask those questions. So that's what our 4 weeks looks like. And in this week 1, we talk about what is case management. You know, it's a process that helps clients navigate systems. Not all the time are those systems effective. It's where you come in as a community support worker. You will walk beside your clients. It might mean a phone call. It might mean that you do go to an appointment with them and walk beside them. However, we're part of their story. We're part of their recovery. We're part of this individual support plan. It involves assessing and reviewing that as things change and progress, or take a step back. And we do work in that step up, step down, depending on where the client is up to. Our planning, our facilitating those calls and appointments, some things clients just cannot do normally, because at the moment they're stuck, and we don't want to be a barrier to our client. We can't be their barrier. They've already got those barriers. So we are their support worker. And so we check, is there any of these things we've spoken about today that you are okay with and you would like somewhere I would help, what does that look like for you? And so we do that collaboratively. I like to draw mine on a piece of paper, and I start with a circle and we go, who are the people around you? What are the things that we want to put on the top of the list? We write it all down. And if it's like, what would be the top? And they might go, I've got 2 number ones. Great, let's give them both number 1. So it's about how is the best way to work with your client? What's your method as a worker, as a case manager? How you might advocate for them both internally and externally with other providers, and reviewing, always reviewing. How are we going? You're back. Sometimes that's your only feedback, is the client keeps turning up for appointments. And it can be difficult if we don't have a good professional, healthy boundary and a model to work to within our casework frame. Then if a client stops turning up, it can leave you with that feeling of like, well, what did I do wrong? And are they okay? You know, we need to have every session within a framework where we unhook by the end of that, but we connect enough to be able to get them to return. And that's all practice skills. That's why we call our role plays practitioner skills. We want you to be ready to go out and do this work. Your role plays are short. We usually make them 10 minutes or 15. The longest ones are 20 minutes. But the minimum you can do is what we say, 10 minutes. So the wording is, you know, not go over 10 minutes, but that doesn't mean, you know, anything less than 9.5 minutes. You know, like it really has to be 10 minutes, because you're going to spend 45 minutes with clients. And if you only know what a 5-minute or even a 10-minute role play is like, you're going to be stuck for things to talk about. You'll have it all done and dusted in 10 minutes. So classes are about really unpacking that conversation and staying in that space. So we're going to have one client that I'm going to work with, and we're going to progress that client throughout our whole 4 weeks. We're going to start that tonight, and we'll bring that client into our area, and that's for our live classes with no assessment around it other than just to get a feel for that space. What's going well? Are you more confident? Because I want you to have that continuity. I want you to have the one client that we work with each week while we're doing this unit. And we'll explain who the client is in part 2. And then, of course, we give you clients, hypothetical clients, in your written assessment work, and we give you the same in your role play in task 4. So we also talk about the ethical and legal foundations, your duty of care with your clients, informed consent, dignity of risk, which means, you know, they get to decide, even if the options that they choose for themselves may not move them towards the goal that they've even said that they would like. But that's their readiness, their stage of decision-making cycle. So cultural safety is very important. Culture is not only country of origin, it's their social, their economic, it could be gender, their sexuality, their religion. It could be the family dynamics. Culture can even be a postcode or a suburb inside an area. You know, Australia as a country is very class driven. It used to be you would have a lower, a middle, and an upper class. It was sort of broadly referred to like that. But how do we measure that? We don't always measure that with materialistic things. So you can have a person in front of you who it may to you seem that they're struggling, but you have to watch your own lens and your unconscious bias around those things. So when someone says, you know, like, I'm homeless, I haven't got stable accommodation, don't think for a moment that accommodation is going to be what they want for themselves, because of experiences that they may have had. It'll have to be the type of accommodation that they can say yes to, that is a good fit for them, not what we think. So you're only going to know what will work, what they would like, and what they may need by working with your client. But you've got to have all of that local knowledge as well. Start to develop a portfolio of, if a client was coming in to see you in the town or the city where you live and you're going to be working, who are those places? Who are those workers? Who are your seamless referral pathways? Who is in an organisation that you're working with? And if you're not yet in the sector, who are the people who work at First Access, hypothetically, and what are the services that they offer? Get familiar with that, because that's exactly what you would be doing in your sector. And we bring this sector to you in your studies if you're not there yet. And we have a lot of sector workers and a lot of people who want to be sector workers that are studying. So there's just a really diverse group that study the Diploma of Community Services. And then, of course, our confidentiality. Classes as well. What's said in class stays in class. If someone shares a lived experience, then we need to make sure that that is safe. You have the right not to be recorded as well. You're accepting that at the beginning of the class. When I do go to record, and I like to give you those options to perhaps go off camera. If we are recording, I want you to feel that class is safe for you to do that. But you also need to know that there is recording, because we're a virtual RTO, a registered training organisation, and you will be doing lots of recordings because we're not face-to-face in a classroom, and those recordings are your skills, and you have to provide evidence that you've got the skills. So the knowledge evidence and the skills evidence. The knowledge is your written assessments, and then you take that knowledge and you apply it to your skills assessment as well. I'll guide you with that. I like to do the role plays in classes if people like them, but some people just like to watch other people do them. Look, it's not, I don't hear very often people say, I love role plays, give me more of them. But I do want to let you know that the more you do, the better you get and your confidence builds. Because if you want to do this work, you need to know how to work with people and demonstrate that you have earned that diploma. Also in week 1, we talk about holistic, the whole person, risks and needs identification, and strength-based planning. And you're going to hear that in our part 2 recording that's going to come out to you. And then also our professional communication. So ours is open-ended questions, and we'll go into more of that for you as well. But we engage clients by not giving them questions where it's just yes, no, I don't know kind of answers. You want to get the conversation flowing for collaboration. A closed-ended question is helpful when it's we're asking for consent for a referral. That's a firm yes or a no. Or informed consent is, what am I saying yes to? Give me some more information. Or who else is going to read my file? They're human rights, and we need to make sure that we have done that, not rushed through that process as well. We'll have trauma-informed approaches, and we'll be managing our own non-verbal cues. What do we do when someone's talking? That's why when you record your role plays, you must be on the screen at all times. So you may have a client, and if you're doing Zoom, you need to record it to your own device and set it up for gallery. You can get a free Zoom for 40 minutes. And if you're going to be recording your own role play, but I need to see, and every other assessor at HADA, we're watching you even when the client is talking. They are your non-verbal cues. And they're things like nodding, leaning forward, making sure that we have open body language rather than closed off body language. Crossing our legs and crossing our arms could mean that we're cold, but to the client, that might mean that I'm shutting you down. I'm dismissing of you. So we need to assess those as well. So if you submit a role play and it says, you know, we need you on the screen at all times, that will be why. If you're reading off a script, that will also go back and say, you needed to know this. You can have a piece of paper with some dot points on it, you know, which is good, you know, and refer to them as your client file notes. We do that. We have that. But the more you do this, this will flow for you. Your subject knowledge will grow. If you're just starting, then you may be coming in with some great skills. People may have already given you feedback, like you're just really easy to talk to. You had those. We need to see them to be able to get the diploma. Okay, so you have to be brave and jump into getting measured and tested, because your clients are going to do that with you all the time. And then we'll move into week 2. We'll do more about the actual tools and those skills that we'll need to be able to make all of that happen. And then we're going to talk about our goals, linking to them, putting some timelines around them that are realistic. And then who else do we need to support make this happen? We don't work in isolation ourselves as workers. We have good relationships with stakeholders, other people who work in different organisations, that they may have that service model and they may have that funding as well. Just briefly, I'll let you know that we will in week 2, we'll talk about the ending of, or a warm handover of, a client if we're referring them to another service, advocating and confirming that it's appropriate. Week 3, we'll cover more in depth of the application of the knowledge, how we use professional language, what is professional language, how we do our final wrap-up interview, and closing off our cases, and then reflecting on the success and, of course, the challenges that we have. And then our summary by the end of the 4 weeks, we'll apply a full case management framework. That's why I'm going to give you the one case the whole way through. It's not an assessed one, but it'll give you that connection to where would I go and what would I do. It is a client that I work with, have worked with, so I can coach you and tell you, yep, you're where we were, you've got where we are. And that as well. So we'll do that journey together of hypothetical, because the case isn't in your assessments, but I want to bring it to life in classes rather than just see it as an assessment, learn about this one client, do a role play and then move on, or fill in some paperwork. I want you to be connected to someone's journey and their experience. And I want you to ask me questions in class about that. Where would you go? What would you do? Here's another way to go at it. I want you guys to be jumping in there and collaborating in that case conferencing. I want you to be part of this person's case management model. Okay. So we'll cover all of that. We'll plan, we'll work collaboratively with our clients and each other. We'll reflect on what our knowledge and skills are. I want you to get a really good feeling about what kind of worker you're going to be. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses, your areas to improve on? Watch other people as they work and you go, wow, I really like how they said that. That's a skill I want to add to my bag of tricks. And then how do we make sure that the good work that we are doing, we can prove that? And that's what maintaining accurate records and respectful boundaries is about. So I hope you really enjoy this unit. This is an important one. It's the core of your work. Case management is something that only someone who is qualified can do and does do. and the Diploma of Community Services. This unit in particular is the absolute foundation of you as a worker. It will cross every area that you use. Every client that you work with, you will apply this one unit to. No matter where you work, what kind of work that you're doing, this is your foundation core skill. And even though you will all be doing the same assessments, you are definitely going to be coming at this in different ways. And that's amazing. And we completely encourage that. In the sector, we don't have workers that are all the same. That would be kind of odd. We have different workers and they're a good fit for different clients. And you might recognise there's someone in your peer group who does something really well. Well, go and ask them. But we've got to know ourselves well before we can step into that space and work with others. So I'm going to ask you to dive a little deep in some of your own self-reflection with this unit, but primarily it's to help you get through your assessments. But I want them to be meaningful and I want them to be relevant. I don't want you to just go through the process and ticking all those boxes to get the assessments out of the way. I want it to be a rich experience for you, so that when you are either watching our classes or attending those classes, that you feel that you are sector ready. And that's something that is your goal while you're doing this study. So I want to say thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience with our delay in some resources and a little bit of confusion around that. We'll get that sorted. But this is going to be part one of your new unit, CHCCSL001, and it's going to be followed with a part two with your peers and a discussion, and then very soon we'll have those resources in your portal. If you've got any questions at all, please contact the learner support officers. They're absolutely there to help you. And the best way to contact the learner support officers is to make sure that you send them an email. So it can be hard to get through the call lines. It is a really busy call where people are taking those numbers. That's super important. And there's a whole team of learner support officers. That's their direct email, and that will go in and be shared amongst the team. They start at 10 a.m. in Hayter time, Melbourne, and they finish at 7 p.m. So the last email that they may respond to, depending on what time of the day, they close that off and do the follow-up for people. But if you want a booking, make sure that you let them know when you're available, when you're going to be sitting in front of your device, so that you can open up your porthole and you can have those conversations. So LSO stands for Learner Support Officers, and they are absolutely amazing and they will help you. And of course, when you come to classes, you're getting training and assessment through me, and I offer my email as well when I'm in that live class session. I like to share that. Not always recorded, because our first point of contact is best with the learner support officers. We're a night RTO, a night college, which means that every one of the trainers that is at Hayter, myself included, even though I work full-time for Hayter, we are sector workers. So I start at 1. And in the mornings, I do other work in the courts and in the housing and homelessness sector. But every one of our trainers and assessors are sector workers. So you have currency and you have subject matter experts that come into that space for you. So stay tuned. We've got part 2. Really looking forward to working with you virtually, by distance, through recording, or of course live when you come to classes. They're very experiential and interactive, but we completely understand if you can't make it to class because you've got competing priorities, and Hayter design this for you to work at your own pace in the style that suits you best. But outside of classes, outside of working independently, you have your learner support officers. So that's their email, lso@hayterinstitute.edu.au. Let's jump over and watch part 2 and meet some of the peers if you're new, and watch some of the learners work through how to do intake and what is case management like just in the early stages.